All right, so Unit 9. Now, this one seems like a big unit, but it's really not. Most of what gets covered in here, we've already discussed, and um, a lot of it's what you carry in your phone using GPS. So, I'm going to be building a lot on the stuff we've talked about before, and Unit 9 moves really quickly despite the number of pages in the book. We're going to be discussing neighborhoods. So, we're going to talk about where you live and what your neighborhood, and we've used this for city before, but it also can be like a town or a neighborhood. And then residence. What are the signs for residence that we used, right? Apartment, home, house, dorm. So it depends on what applies to you. And then what you like, what you don't like, don't like, could be love or hate, right? Or detest. And then future. And we've used this for plan before, or plan. So we'll use both of those signs. So again, all of this is stuff we've talked about before in different other situations. Now we're just putting it towards community. I think there's only 22. Yeah, there's only 22 vocab. And most of it's stuff we've already done. And I will include a link to, again, the slideshow. And in this lecture, in Unit 9, I've tried to include a lot of GIFs. Let me know if it slows down the files. I've gone back and forth with it. This one didn't seem quite so bad, but if it slows you down, let me know, and I can just put videos or remove those and just leave the separate PowerPoint. Now, when we talk about where you live, we have different points that you can add in. Again, what kind of residence you live in, what's the city name, what is the district if there's a neighborhood, if you live on the west side, the east side, the south side, or if it's got a name, Chinatown, or I'm trying to think of other neighborhoods. In Cleveland, there's the West 6th or 6th area, or fingerspell the name, Tremont. And for how long and with whom. So those are I'll say five different things that go under where you live. So just different points to think about. And really, it's the same as we do in English. When you describe where you're from, where you live, these are all the same things. All we're doing now is putting it in sign, right? So I want you, how do you introduce yourself? And now you're just doing it with your hands. Then the next section is, what is the neighborhood like? Is it business? Is it shops? Is it mostly residential? Is it rural? Any of a number of different things. So what's the neighborhood or area like? What's nearby and convenient? We're going to talk about like the things that are right around where your house is, where your residence is. And then the people who live in the area. Okay. So those are all the headings that we're going to be going through, or that the book goes through. Let's see. Okay, so those are the first two. There's 3, 4, and 5. So 3, telling what is next to your residence. So specifically defining like what's across the street, what's to the right, what's to the left, and what's behind. Or we can even talk about like what's a walk, 2 blocks this way, 1 block that way. We can add that kind of detail, but what's right around the neighborhood. And then any details of that facility, that building, if there's an apartment building, if there's a school, what grades, any kind of specific details that go with that. If it's a restaurant, what kind of food does it serve? And then if you talk about a residence, whether it's apartments or a house or anything like that, then who lives there? Also, we can talk about sort of the communities. If there's, say, an ethnic community or a different population, we know that people tend to have communities, right, where they feel comfortable and have similarities. So that can also be a way of describing. If there's an area where there's a nursing home in Columbus, Ohio, that is predominantly for deaf people, So to describe that neighborhood, it's pretty significant to mention that. Talking about what you like and what you don't like, the ones we're specifically going to go over are noise level, which I find ironic that it's for deaf people to be talking about noise level, but okay. Safety, how safe, how dangerous an area is, or how you feel than how it actually is. How much traffic, how much business, cleanliness, how dirty it is, and I suppose traffic level specifically. We're talking about cars, activity level, talking about how much people are moving around, also talking about like hours of the day when it's busy and when it isn't, and then cost of living. So pretty common things we talk about, and in this case, those are the ones um, we're going to be dealing with. Let me move this thing out of the way. Sorry. So, it's not going to let me move it. Well, that's handy. Okay. And then last is, what are your future plans? So the easiest way to do this is literally to sit down with this outline and write down, here's my stuff. Just don't write sentences. Do a bullet point outline of where do you live? What's the city, state? Is it apartment? Is it a dorm? Is it whatever? Make sure you know all those vocab. Then is there a more specific community or neighborhood that has or district label or name? How long have you lived there? And you can do since 1989, or lived there for 4 years, since 4 years, or up to now, with roommate, with family, with husband, wife, whatever, sweetheart. Keep going with that outline of what is the neighborhood like. What's nearby. And I will say, think about it the way we've used signing space, where start from, say, the left, center, right, and then behind you. It's the easiest way of doing it. If there's something that's between them, highlight it. Pick something that's significant. If it's just there's an empty lot, fine. If there are 4 drugstores or 4 bars on each corner, maybe that's your reference point. So I live in Lakewood, where it's bar, church, CVS, bar. But at least I used to. And then, so that's nearby and convenient. If there's like a bus stop or a train or something like that, that's also worth mentioning. And then who lives in the neighborhood. And that can be as specific or as general as it feels comfortable. If you happen to live in Germantown, you can mention that as both the district, and then there's a lot of people who have like German families. Or from Germany, or moved from Germany. And there's Germany or Germany. You'll see both signs of the D on top of the head, or this sort of double eagle. Then, so again, we're just highlighting what's like directly nearby, as opposed to in the greater neighborhood, what is right there. Oh, hi, buddy. And you can even talk about nosy neighbors. On TikTok recently, I've been watching a lot of nosy, crazy neighbor stuff. So you can talk about, oh, my neighbor over here is supposed to always watching me and taking pictures. It's really creepy. Then, next paragraph, what do you think about where you live? How's the noise? How safe do you feel? What's the traffic like? Is it busy roads? Is it small roads? How clean is the community? And what's the activity level? And when? You can think about if, like, during the business hours or like in the morning, it's busy, but at night there's nothing. It's dead. And then cost of living. Is it expensive, cheap, or so-so? Right? And then the last thing is future plans. Like, if to the extent where you would say, I plan to stay here until I graduate, and then I'm going to move. Then I'm going to move away. That's great. Or I plan on staying. I grew up in this community. I'm going to stay because I love it. Okay. So be thinking about it. So the best thing you can do is write all that information out. double check to make sure that you know the signs for that. And if there's something that you don't know the sign for or can't find it, if you can change your answer, I don't care. I don't know what the truth is. I just want you to be able to sign and answer. So I've included a bunch of videos, and let me just pause this for 1 moment. Oh. Okay, sorry. So each one of these is broken up with examples of what to watch. So if you watch here, he's going to talk about the city and district where he lives. So there's a perfect example. So what I just signed was that I live in a town called Cuyahoga Falls. And if someone does afterwards, that's the name sign for that town, or that city, or that neighborhood. And then I don't live in the downtown district. I live in the residential area. So homes, like lining the street. So it's more residential. Stores are pretty far for me. So he's just starting out, and his story gets broken up into little pieces. So it's easy to sort of digest and go through your outline. For how long and with whom? So I live in my house with my wife, and it's just the two of us. And we've been here for, this is, I believe, our 3rd year. Kind of residence. So up to now, since, and then how many years, how many months, totally up to you. And then who are you with? It could be alone or with someone, right? Roommate, family. For some reason, there are multiple copies of that same one. Okay, so what is your neighborhood like? So he's going to describe what it's like. And again, I can sign. Let me see if I can play this and if it will play for you with all the gifts it might be. It used to be factories, but that's all changed. But now it's condos. So during the day, lots of people going back and forth to work, but at night, it's very quiet. But you can't rub up against that. Just move my camera. Okay. So again, he's going through each step of the slideshow. And I've included GIFs in here for each of the different areas. As he talks about in his, that area used to be factories. So that's one of the vocab words, but now changed. So he says downtown area or downtown. Sometimes you'll see this or this. It's basically all multiple plural use of house, downtown. Business area, business. So I'm going to quick move through these GIFs. They're all in here, and they'll give you each of the vocab words straight from the book. So it's all the same stuff you've got in your textbook. And if you have the online stuff as well. But I don't want the GIFs are going to muddy everything up. So Homes, residential, home, area. And with each one, notice he's using area. He's saying this area, it's all homes, or factories. And homes, area, old. Could be homes, area, new, if it's new construction. So home area, new. So again, it's all broken down right through the vocab. So whichever of these apply to where you live, I live on a plantation. So what she's pointing out is that the houses are far apart. So they could be close together. And notice the facial expression, or sort of a bigger, much more distance between them. Farm. And I don't know why this is the sign for farm. Could be eating grass, like talking about cows. It could be, I don't know, the people had beards with no mustaches. I don't know. So again, more areas describing them. And then the vocab review. And each of these GIFs, again, let me know if the GIFs make this thing too slow, because I can replace them once I get everything posted. So the next section is he's talking about what's nearby and what's convenient. So again, we go through pool, P-O-O-L, or P-O-O-L. And oftentimes people do swimming pool or just pool. Farmer's market or outdoor market. Horse rotting. Ferry. Again, I love the book's printed in San Francisco, and they have so many unique things there that most cities don't have, and yet they include that. It gets rather annoying, but they could have included bus or train and been a lot more widely applicable. Baseball, football, tennis courts, art, and you could do museum, store, gallery, and then highway. And I believe we've done this in the past where it's like two lanes, 3 lanes, 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 4 lanes, or like regular road one way. So these are nearby things. There's train. And if you look, it's sort of like the railroad ties and the tracks. Airport. So any of these other things we've used in past vocab. Bus. Okay. So again, we're going to go through all the vocab. Is right here for you. Oh, baseball one seems to be missing. I'll have to see what's happening with that one. Okay. And studio, you just have to finger spell that. And again, a couple more vocab review stuff. And then next, who lives in that neighborhood? And we'll go through. Now, I mean, signing naturally is not known for its diversity, as we've pointed out in many other pictures. So I apologize now. Just take note of it, and hopefully they'll fix that in their slow ever going process. Now here, professional, what they're signing is white collar, not a priest collar. You've probably heard white collar, blue collar. White collar tends to be professional class. Blue collar tends to be labor class. So I should be logging on right now. And sometimes you see professional with a P, or same as major, meaning professional, or what your profession is. We used art. So artists. So again, go through, take a look at each of these. young family, old folks, retired people. And then we start getting into ethnic groups. And she signs both Black, like I think she signs Black family and African American. And there are a few different signs for African. Many of them are regional signs, and some of them have been changing. So sometimes you'll see African, so it's A around the face, or like drawing the shape of the continent of Africa, and African American. Um, is that one out of order? Yeah, that's weird. Okay. I'll fix that slide. It's just out of order. Okay. Um, so they just do a couple of generic ones. If there are specific ones you need to look up, if you just look up international signs, spread the sign, I think, or share this. I think it's called Spread the Sign, is a good website. And I believe at the end of this, I include a link to, you can look up like any ethnicity that you need to, or any cultural background, and you can find the sign for it. So there is Hispanic or Latino. If they're specific, like Spanish, this tends to be more the generic Hispanic Latino. This is specifically Mexican. And there are other, I think Filipino, I think, is this. So if there's any specific one you need to find that applies to you, by all means, look it up. Indian. They don't pick that many of them, which it would be really nice if this unit gave a bunch of different signs. But white, now, some people don't like to sign this, like white face, because it doesn't really apply. You don't sign black face. Well, yeah, obviously. But this is the only one where there's that sort of flick to the face. But most of the time, I've seen it changing to people just so different, or like varied. Both signs for like diverse. And there's a second one. So again, more vocab as you go through the book, and they're numbered. The numbers here match what your number is. Then we've got what type of residence do you live in? And with each one, it's just expanding. So if you figured out the stuff that you want to say, then watch what they sign and emulate what they do. So again, more vocab. I separated the vocab, so they're not in numerical order. I separated them based on the topic in the outline. We've got different ones for noise level, safety level, the level of traffic, how the streets are is probably a better specific one, the level of cleanliness, activity level. Oops. Two signs for cleanliness, activity level, cost of living, if it's expensive, if it's cheap, and then future plans. Then ending it with what's the full story, what's David's full story, and you can watch as he does each thing. I'll recommend just do each little section on your own, and this will be your on Go React. This will be an assignment. It's rough, and I know it's at the end of the semester, and it's crunch time for every class. So this is not going to be a difficult thing for you to do. I really want you to just write down that outline. But the key is I want you to do it in one take. Even if you have to look and sign, you know all this information. It just means you need to practice it so that you don't have to look down for every sign, and that you can go, okay, so I live here in this neighborhood. These things are right nearby. Here's something, here's something, here's something. Like, so I want you to be able to do it in one take. I don't want you to edit. Right. So if you have to think, if you make a mistake and have to fix it, I want to see that, because that tells me that you're processing the information. And so here's the vocab. And there's a little bit more in here as I expanded some of the more specifics that we got into and what comes from the stories. And then there was follow-up material, the homework that comes from the book, where Amber describes her neighborhood, and I put the questions in so that you can watch her video and then answer them. And that's all of 9.1. This seemed like a long video, but again, I looked through all the different variables. And if you sit down and just go through them, especially looking at the ones that apply to your neighborhood, that'll be a lot easier. And, there it is. Boosh.